Well, time for another walk-around video. Most recent build I got right over here we've just completed. It's a 1978 Ford Bronco. We did a Godzilla 7.3 V8 install as well as kind of a, let's call it a half restoration. The body was already painted, but we took care of the chassis and the underhood to make the whole kind of functional running gear look as good as the top side of this truck. So it's been a really fun build. We're about to send it home to the owner, and wanted to give you a quick look at it before we send her away. So let's go over and take a closer look. All right, and there she is. So this is a 78 Bronco, the Gen 2 full-size truck. Finished in a really nice jade green metallic. You can see kind of shimmering in the sunlight here. This truck came to us already painted. The owner had bought it. He'd been driving it a little while, really liked the truck. But the 351M was pretty tired. The underhood was a little rough looking. The chassis was still original. So it was time for, next level, let's say, in the restoration and continuation of this truck's life. So up on the docket is the install of the Godzilla 7.3. So this new V8 from Ford, it's in all your like F250, F350 trucks. Super nice engine, big block type power, makes like, I think it's 435 horsepower. It's got lots of torque because it's a truck motor. And now Ford Racing is selling it as a crate engine. So we've installed, this is our second. We did another 79 Bronco. And we're really digging it. This is a great engine. It's a great combination in these big trucks, and it's been fun to build, and I tell you what, it is super fun to drive. We've put about 600 miles on this truck already, doing all the shakedown and debug, and it's running fantastic. This one, the first one, if you saw our videos, was built with a manual, so this truck is an automatic. So we chose the Ford 6R80 6-speed auto. Now that auto has a standalone control system we can purchase from US Shift. It's called the Quick 6. It's a really great trans controller. It gives us all kinds of ability to tune the shifting and the calibration of this thing. So after a couple days working with it, we've got the truck driving really nice. Love the way it is. It's got, typical automatic overdrive mode, but then it also has this cool manual mode where you can tap up, tap down shift. So you can use that on the highway. You can use that if you want to drag race Mustangs, and it's really useful off-road because if you're going real slow, you can do gear selection between first and second and kind of have full control, almost like driving a manual, but with the advantages of a torque converter so you don't have to slip the clutch. So a really sweet package. We're going to do some footage showing you the interior, the underhood, the chassis on this thing, but yeah, generally speaking, we're digging this truck a lot. My own personal Bronco is a 1979, and this is the exact combo I'm going to build. Pretty much same motor, same trans, same tire size. I just love the way this thing drives. You can cruise down the road at 70 miles an hour. You can go off-road with it. It does everything I want it to. So really, really impressed with this whole package. All right, the part of this build that people seem to be the most interested in. Under the hood, the new Ford 7.3 liter gasoline V8, codenamed Godzilla. So this is our second Godzilla Bronco build. Really liking this motor, really liking it in these big trucks. So factory, it's around 435 horsepower. In our configuration with an aftermarket tune and free-flowing exhaust, we're probably really pushing up towards 500. It's got a ton of torque. If you can see that intake there, it's a big truck-style intake with long runners, so it has a big, broad torque curve, and the thing just drives amazing. It is backed by a 6R80 6-speed automatic. So between the great gear ratios of the 6-speed, the big broad torque curve of this engine, I mean, it's not even working when this truck's cruising down the road. If you get on it off a stoplight, the thing rips. I mean, it jumps, feels like you're driving a Mustang, not a Bronco, because the thing moves out fast. Our install on this body style has been pretty simple. They really have plenty of room under here. You can see to the fender wells, lots of clearance. These trucks, have had big blocks in them in the past decade, so it's not surprising this thing fits pretty well. The only real change we did was a tiny little notch in the frame rail on this passenger side to clear the exhaust manifold. So that was it. We've built our own motor mounts, kind of positioned the engine where we like it. We've got this cone filter with this large kind of mandrel bent intake pipe. We run mechanical fans on these truck engines because they get used in hot climates and towing and stuff. So this back here you can actually see is the stock fan that comes off the Super Duty trucks. And we have a control on the electroviscous clutch so we can turn it on, turn it off as needed when the AC kicks on, etc. Speaking of AC, can't really see it behind the grill, but Vintage Air supplies a direct fit condenser to go with their behind the dash unit. And down here we've got it's a little hard to see, but a Sandon SD7 compressor on a bracket system from Power by the Hour Performance. So all, pretty straightforward stuff. Of course, there's a little custom touches and fab that goes into installing that stuff, but not too bad in terms of difficulty. For braking system, we made a big upgrade. So we took out the factory vacuum booster and run this setup. This is a Hydro Boost system with a Wilwood dual master. So it gives you kind of two advantages. One, there's a lot more clearance for the engine, so it makes it a lot easier to service the coil on that side, the spark plug, etc. It also gives much better brake line pressure. So we've put stainless lines all around, fresh brakes on the thing, and it really stops quite well for the size of truck that it is. So everything about the braking and steering, all new, all fresh, and drives really nice. Coming down this driver's side inner fender, you can see the battery here, which if you know your Fords, this is the wrong side. The reason we do this is because the engine's alternator is right there, so we're trying to keep the run short. So we've got, 16 inches of cable basically between the alternator and the battery. And moving the battery over to this side on a resto mod, not really a big deal. We're running Odyssey gel cell batteries. And then tucked behind it, we have a auxiliary fuse block and a main protection fuse for the alternator. So that fuse block has all of our EFI and trans controller and gauges. It also has cooling fan relays and fuel pump relays, things like that in it. So we've left the original wiring in the truck. Basically, didn't disturb that too much. Added this auxiliary fuse block with the secondary systems we need and tied it all together. Everything's kind of tucked and routed, not hidden, but done in what I would call an OEM style. We're using the same OEM tape you find on a Godzilla motor wiring harness, so it all matches. And everything's basically done in, like a satin black, subtle finish. So less about show, more about functionality. The last piece I'll point out over here, so that's the ECU for the engine that we tucked on the dash, or the firewall, right there. The vintage air lines are coming through. That's a little different. The stock installation comes through the fender well, but because the owner wanted us to repaint under the hood, it gave us a chance to do a little firewall work. So we filled in all the holes, welded everything up, painted the firewall below the pinch weld there, painted the inner fenders, so the whole under hood has been restored and looks great now. So truck runs well, drives well. I think it's really easy to work on because everything, lots of room here, easy to service. And yeah, we're super happy. We're getting ready to build a few more of these, so keep an eye on it. The package is just a really nice one. I can't say enough nice things about how these trucks are driving with this engine and trans combo. So the most common question we get in these builds is, how does it drive? The short answer on this truck, it drives awesome. This engine is a truck engine. It is fundamentally designed, built for the Super Duty Ford pickups that are sold at your dealership today. So when you take a truck engine that has a big torque curve, lots of displacement, and you put it in a big full-size Bronco like this, it's really a match made in heaven. We've got all the kind of niceties of modern fuel injection system, good reliability, good drivability, and we've got big power and a big torque curve to move a heavy truck. So it all comes together to a really good powertrain match. Now this truck we've talked about has a 6R80 automatic transmission. So with the modern 6-speed, you get some distinct advantages. The first gear is pretty low. It's like 4.3 to 1. So when you're off-roading, that low-range first gear really helps you kind of the slow speed stuff where you're crawling. The 5th and the 6th in this transmission are both overdrives. So when you get out to do highway cruise, the thing will really turn down the revs and cruise along nicely without drinking too much fuel. So if you've ever driven one of these Broncos in its original form, they're going to get 7-8 miles per gallon, something along those lines. We've got about 500 miles on this truck and a lot of mixed driving, romping on it some, tuning things, and so far it's getting 12-13 miles per gallon. So you think that's almost double the original truck, so really a big improvement. You can see this trans shifting great. I've got it programmed with the Quick 6 controller, and of course we have to do some custom tuning on that. They come with what I would call a little more aggressive shift scheduling than we want for this kind of truck. So we went through and softened things up a little bit, changed some of the shift points, but kind of got it running where it's really nice right now. As I mentioned in the video about the interior layout, we've got a tap shift function here. So if I want, I drop it into sport mode, and using these little thumb buttons, I can kick it down a gear, kick it down 2 gears, kick it back up, and then go back into drive mode. So if it if you like street racing with your local Mustang or Camaro guys, you can go after it with your sport mode shifting. And it's really useful in the off-road environment. So if you're in slow speed crawling, you want to stick in first, you use Manutronic, you go down to first, and then maybe hit a gravel road so you can kick it up into third or put it back into drive mode. So it makes the whole thing really nice to use, lots of functionality and lots of ease. If you've ever driven a manual off-road versus an automatic, you know it's a lot easier to wheel an automatic. So kind of net message, man, this is the best package by far, I think, for these big trucks. You know, the Coyote swaps have been popular, but that's more of a car engine. It's a high RPM screamer. This big, high displacement, torque laden truck motor is really just the perfect fit for these guys. So I'm a big fan, as you can tell. So we'll take a look at the interior on this truck. We didn't actually do much here. Came in really clean. It's got the jade green interior, original bench seat truck. So nice for sitting with your favorite friend slide up next to you. The interior was clean and nice. So most of our changes were kind of behind the dashboard. The owner wanted vintage air, so we went ahead and put the vintage air evap assembly. It's all behind the dash, kind of tucked behind the glove box, so you can't really see it. Fair bit of work to get that tucked in there, though. And then if you come over here, you can see these are the vintage air controls. These are all like electric pots, so they slide super nice and easy. They're real smooth compared to the old vacuum tube and mechanical linkages. Works really well, blows cold air, blows hot heat, has a real powerful fan, so it's a really nice setup for these classic trucks. The steering wheel was already here, so it's kind of an aftermarket steering wheel, but we made some big changes to the column. So the owner really wanted to keep column shift on this thing, which is a little tricky with these late model 6-speeds. But we took the column apart and made some mods. And if you look at this guy right here is a late model Ford parking or a shift column, shift lever, I should say. The buttons on it right down there, there's a plus and a minus and a tow haul on the end. So we've programmed those to work with our 6R80 shift controller. And what you can do is you drop from overdrive to the next position down is what they call Manutronic mode. So the up-down buttons basically allow you to tap shift up and down with the trans. The tow haul is pretty much like an OD cancel, so if you're in 6 and you hit that, it'll drop to 5th gear. If you're in lower gears, it just won't go up past 5th gear, so it's a little bit better if you have a load behind the truck or maybe for climbing a grade. The other thing tucked in back here, a little hard to see, but cruise control. So this drive-by-wire control system works with this aftermarket cruise controller we've procured and got that all wired in. Tried to find a good spot, mounted it here on the column so it's pretty easy to reach behind the wheel there. So a couple little touches around the steering column. And then kind of the main piece here is the Dakota Digital gauge set. So this is their direct fit HDX system for the 73 to 79 Ford pickups. Really nice setup. I'll turn it on here. You can see they light up, the gauges sweep. And you've got these displays, so you can configure these, program them to all different kinds of things. But on this one, I think right now we've got just clock and odo showing. But if you switch it, you can scroll through the different displays, service intervals. You can see right now the water temp, oil pressure. We've got volts and fuel level on the other one. So a pretty nice programmable system, really nice backlight in the dark where you can adjust the colors. You can program these things. They even do like 0 to 60 timing and stuff. So really nice setup. We run Dakota Digital in almost all of our RestoMod builds because they have some really great direct fit products like this that come into these older vehicles, work really well, and allow you to monitor the engine, kind of keep control and visual of all the key vitals without having to go to external gauges, under the dash or somewhere like that. So that's really about it. Other than that, like I said, we didn't really mess with what was already good. Truck was in great shape. So that was our interior mods. All right, we'll take a look at the business end of the Bronco now. Take a look under at the chassis while it's up on the hoist. So as I mentioned, this truck came in, painted, was looking good on the top side, but they hadn't dealt with the underhood or the chassis in any way. So of course the Godzilla install gave us some opportunities. Down here, what you really will see is after we'd done all the fabrication work, we lifted the body off and basically stripped everything down for refinishing. So whole frame, all suspension parts, axles, everything was clean, degreased, sandblasted, and then powder coated in a nice satin black. So everything's looking fresh. It's got a real good coating on it now. It's real easy to clean and wipe down. So all looks really, really clean and nice. We changed all the fasteners out, so you see a lot of gold kind of grade 8 stuff hanging out over here. And that's a mix. Some of it, when it's regular grade 8 bolts, we just use new bolts. And then some of the specialty stuff you can't buy, we strip down and we actually have replated to match the existing grade 8 stuff. Kind of hard to see here, but all new stainless brake lines, so front and rear, axle brake lines, lines down the chassis, everywhere is all new, custom bent stainless to fit this thing. Suspension came in with this kit. It's a rough country lift kit. We just cleaned it up and reused it because the owner was happy with it. Steering kind of same way, all new tie rod ends, drag links, etc. When you come back here under the truck, I can show you a little of the details on the Godzilla install. So this view is the 6R80 trans. You can see the big pan there. It actually goes in really easily. It's on the stock cross member. You can kind of see there's these 2 bolts back here. And we just put a spacer to kind of make up the gap and get the height where we wanted, but otherwise didn't really have to modify the cross member. It was a little hammered from some off-roading, so we kind of straightened it out, tried to make it look as good as we could. But other than that, real simple to drop a 6R80 onto the stock Bronco trans. The T-case moved back a little bit because of the adapter, and you can't really see it up in here, but we've got a modified shift lever so that the shift lever comes through the floor in the same location, so we didn't have to do any tunnel mods with this build. We just kind of made everything underneath the floor to keep it nice and tidy. Right up here, you can see we're running trans cooler lines. Those are dash 8, kind of big, heavy-duty, half-inch lines for cooling. And then we've got our gear shift lever coming down. That's the rod to actuate it, and the gear shift indicator there working for us. So kind of all the details of the mechanical. Coming backwards, I'll swing around, and you can see the exhaust here. So much like the first Bronco we did a complete custom exhaust on this one. It's mandrel bent pipe that we cut and fabricate ourselves here. We bring from the stock manifolds down sides of the trans, come back to this X. So we kind of join the X right in the middle here. And then swinging backwards, we've got 2 Flowmaster 70 series chambered mufflers out the back. So truck's got kind of a good growl, but it's not too loud. 70 series are a big case with lots of damping in them. So not too obnoxious when you're cruising down the highway. Rear axle, much like the front, just kind of a basic service, rebuild, and then, of course, all the paint and powder coat. So all new fasteners, new bearings, new seals, etc. But otherwise, unmodified. Back in the back, the fuel tank. We bought a replacement tank. It's a new 20-gallon unit. And what you can kind of see here, there's a fuel pressure regulator right here. It's mounted on a plate right in front of the tank. So that's where we're controlling fuel pressure. And the silver canister right next to it is the filter. So we've got an in-tank pump module with a 255 liter per hour pump, regulating right there to 60 PSI with a return line, and then it's actually just kind of a production style fuel filter, real easy to service at any parts store. So that's kind of the key elements of the underside. And this thing, like I said, looking great. I've already put, I guess, 600 miles on this truck now, and you can see really clean. I gave it a quick wipe down with a rag, but it's easy to keep it looking great and take care of it now for the next 20-30 years to come. All right, that is a wrap on the 1978 Bronco. So this has been a fun one, but we've got some really cool stuff coming down the pipe, so please keep watching. We're looking at 2023 with a 1996 Bronco Godzilla swap project we're going to be kicking off, as well as a 1971 F-250 Camper Special Ford pickup that also is getting a Godzilla swap. So those will both be shown on our Instagram. We'll probably do some YouTube videos of both of them, have a lot of, kind of how we do it and why we're doing things we're doing. And yeah, so like this video if you would, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. If you got anything you want to know about this truck, hit us up in the comments. We'll try to answer questions as best we can. And yeah, stay tuned because a lot more good things coming for Well Sorted next year. Thanks for watching.